playing games after and how long practice? How are you feeling going into this one?
Yeah, really good. I think the focus was really good in practice. That's what stood out to me. I felt like we got a lot done. Still, it's how I look at these practices is it's an investment in the future in terms of a lot of time is spent on how we making players individually better. So it's if I was to look at I was looking at the percentage of practices that is more concept based versus like very tactical team things, and we're really investing a lot of time in things like finishing, closeout decisions, and I just think that's going to be more effective than putting any new play in or any tactical scheme. And it takes a little bit longer to really see that stuff pay off, but I think we've seen it already just with some of our younger players and their improvement. It's like, of course, Carla and how much she's stepped up this year, but even I think Frida's had a great few games recently, and just I think the more we keep doing this, the more we are going to get it back later. So some great practices.
So the last time you played against Seattle, you won that game. It was kind of tight one. Like, what do you think you might have to tighten up from that one?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was so much to take from that. I think the first thing was that was one of our better. We won the possession game, so we had that last time we played Seattle. We had we won the possession battle because of our offensive rebounding, and we did a really good job. We gave up 8, which is still too many, but that was one of our better games from a rebounding perspective. So that's important. I think being more prepared for the covers we're going to see. So I think we saw some new things in that first game, which we hadn't seen from other teams in the league. So it took us a while to really find, we call them cover solutions. It took a while to find good cover solutions for what we were experiencing in the pick and roll that game. So I feel like we are much more prepared today for what we're going to see and just knowing how we want to punish each type of cover.
How does getting I know she's done a game for how does that change the match?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you look at who they have with their bigs, and there's nothing like it in the league, and I think they're going to be good for a long time just with that core. I think just the combination of size, athleticism, and skill, and obviously I thought in her first game back, Ezzy was shooting the ball really well, but then I think Malonga and Pham are getting better every game. I think especially Pham, she's shooting a lot better now, seems a lot more comfortable there, and then Malonga just in terms of the ability to get those perimeter catches and put pressure on the rim and be there in 1 or 2 dribbles. So that's a unique challenge for us tonight, but it's great. We're up to the test, and I know we can do it.
What have you seen from Flage? Talk about the development from her from the last time you guys played. What have you seen in that development?
Yeah, I think just from the scout, I think she's obviously had more confidence scoring the ball. I think her shot making has become more efficient as the season's gone on, and I think that's the case where I think she benefits from as the team gets better, as you see with like Malonga getting better, Pham getting better. I think that naturally makes it easier for her to perhaps get the ball in easier scoring opportunities.
When you have a team like that she's developing into an outside game that you kind of have to focus on, and then you do have the inside game with Pham and Malonga, that duo developing as well. As a coach, what do you particularly prefer to defend, or what would you prefer to give up if you would? You kind of have to pick your poison.
Yeah, exactly, and it's really just a case of combining the eye test with what we're seeing on film with what some of the analytics is coming back with, and that's kind of how we do it with all our scouts. I think it's a balance where I think when analytics is used well, it's I think there's so much in the media about the anti-analytics, and it's either this or that, and it doesn't have to be that way. I think there are huge misconceptions of what analytics actually is. It's about far more than what shots someone takes, and I think the people who are the organizations tapping into it the right way. It's always a balance to check your own biases and kind of support what you're looking for and how you're looking for things with a scout.
And if you get caught up in the echo chamber, obviously you can kind of twist numbers to kind of find numbers to say that you want to support your argument or your theory. How do you defend against that internally?
Great question. So I think it's being aware of those biases, number one, and then I think a good example I found is if you're going to use a metric to argue or put forward a case for something, then you can't then not use that metric for something else if it's something that you disagree with. So I think a good example is some of the net stuff on lineups. Like I'm much more interested right now into behavioral metrics and what we're actually seeing. I think the net stuff, of course, I'm always going to look at it. But then if you're making decisions based on one thing, you've got to be consistent with that. And then you can't go away from using that metric for other decisions later on. So I'm happy with where we're at. Just I think we've got a really good team here in terms of how we're practically making sense of the numbers and then using that to make informed coaching decisions.
What do you mean by behavioral metrics?
Yeah, so something we had a good example, Sean, was that stretch we had. What was it, about 10 games ago, where I spoke about those 3 intentions we set. So it was 3 things. So one was defensive rebounding and what we were going to do there. Second thing was pace, so improving our pace, and then the third thing was turnovers on offense, cutting those down. So a prime example of pace would be a behavioral metric would be things like pace to the scoring zone. How long is it taking us to get the ball after a make or miss to the opponent's scoring zone? And that would be a good example of, and then you look at individual rates for our guards as to who's doing it, who isn't. So, and then percentiles for certain things, certain actions. So that's something I'm interested in when it comes to that.